So this is the chart of the lunar eclipse on June 4th, 2012, upcoming. You see the moon will be in Scorpio, very close to Rahu, the north node. Now the moon is debilitated in Scorpio because the sign of Scorpio is where our emotions are very restless and we're trying to stabilize the emotions. It's fixed water, and the moon is literally the instability of the heart and mind, because the heart and mind, our emotional environment is changing every moment, because that's what our heart is meant to do, is to respond to the moment, to respond to the feelings of the moment, and to feel into our environment. Eventually, when we just live on the surface of life, we just become emotional, and our feeling nature becomes all emotion. But our deeper feeling potential is much stronger and much more enduring and eternal than just the emotions in the moment. Just like waves on the water are a very unique phenomena of the moment, underneath that, the ocean is deep and vast, and the same is true with us. But because we're not deep and vast, because our life is lived on the surface, and we're always on the surface of our life trying to do something to make us feel good and feel connected, we generate a lot of emotions. That's what the emotions are. Something out here is going to make me feel peaceful. And Scorpio is where we feel that pain, we feel that stress, we feel that emotional restlessness. We're trying to stabilize the emotions in Scorpio. However, this is why the moon is debilitated there, but it's also why there's enormous potential for stabilizing the emotions in Scorpio as well if we can sit still. That's the biggest challenge with Scorpio, is it's emotionally restless. It's ruled by Mars. Trying to become emotionally courageous and face those difficulties so that we can be still. So really what happens with Scorpio is it's fixed water where we want the feelings to be stable. And because they're not, there's generally restlessness, and we look outside of ourselves. But when we look inside of ourselves, Scorpio can be the most emotionally stable and the most emotionally strong and deep if they've done that work. And this is what we're going to be compelled and challenged to do on the full moon during this cycle. But the full moon in Scorpio is going to have that quality. Now it's happening next Monday, early in the morning, Monday, 11 a.m. Universal time, so that's like 3 a.m. Pacific time, 6 a.m. Eastern time on June 4th, Monday, June 4th. And so it's a time when, leading up to that, especially next weekend, we're going to feel a lot of emotional stress and pressure, and, because the moon will be very bright and moving to fullness as the moon goes through Libra and Virgo. So this is the chart of this week. You see that, like for instance, this is the chart of Monday this week, the 28th and the 29th. The moon is still in Leo. Then it goes into Virgo. It's joined Saturn. Then it's hemmed between Saturn and Rahu over the weekend. Hemmed between Saturn and Rahu over the weekend. And then it's joined Rahu on Sunday, and then here's where we have the eclipse. So again, it's a time to really try to stabilize the emotions and to go deep. Our meditation practices and our deep meditative experiences will be about the most important and powerful thing that we can do during that time, because the emotions will be restless, and we're trying to strengthen our emotions, and we're usually not so strong there. Other planets do really well there, generally, like the Sun, Mars, and Jupiter, because they help us overcome the fear and worry of Scorpio. That's why the moon is exalted in Taurus, because it's naturally already settled and stable. But, the deep promise and principle of the moon in Scorpio is devotion, and sinking deeper into that truth of the emotions, which is deeper than the surface of the waves. If we're just on the surface of life, Moon in Scorpio is very painful because then we're just riding those deep waves, those like emotional cravings. It's one of the difficulties with Scorpio is that sort of emotional craving. But feeling like something out here has got to make me happy. I've got to find something to feel calm and stable. When we look inside and go inside, it's very beautiful and powerful. And then Scorpio brings enormous emotional depth. It's hard to do with the full moon, and especially because Rahu is also there. Because Rahu is also debilitated in Scorpio, because Rahu has to do with our imagined fears. And Scorpio has this quality of imagined fear as well, where we tend to exaggerate and distort and assume the negative, assume the most fearful scenario. This is just the nature of Scorpio, so we can protect ourselves emotionally. And so Scorpio naturally is where we tend to assume the worst. This is why the moon is debilitated there, because we tend to assume the worst and then get kind of restless about it. When Rahu is there, it makes it even more so the case. It definitely can. So you want to be really aware and careful of this next weekend as the moon is going through Scorpio. Especially, the moon is in Scorpio Sunday and Monday, but it's also really full over the weekend. Friday and Saturday when the moon is in Libra, it can be a lot of relationship issues coming up because the moon will be in Libra, which is about relationships. But it'll be very bright and ready to be eclipsed. We're in this eclipse cycle, this powerful eclipse cycle. And this eclipse in Scorpio is going to offer as contrast to the Taurus lesson right now, because we have all these planets in Taurus, 5 planets in Taurus. We just had the solar eclipse in Taurus. So I have all this fixed Earth energy trying to really stabilize and reflect upon what's most valuable, what's the true value in our life, what's really worth staying with and making a commitment to, and where do we maybe sell ourselves short or sell others short, not valuing them as much as we can, or not expecting and demanding that we are valued and appreciated in order to maintain some kind of stable connection. We can look at this globally as well. How much are we locked into our comfort zone and our comforting and our comfort strategies at the expense of a greater dynamism, even like in Western culture, in the Western world, where we have so much affluence and we don't want to give up our comforts, for instance. This is also an emotional, psychological lesson as well. We want to stay emotionally comfortable and safe without rocking the boat, because then we embrace all of the imagined fears and the potential dangers. Now, that's what this lunar eclipse is going to show. It's going to bring this contrast point. Sure, things might feel very solid and stable right now in this Taurus cycle. We got our pleasure, we got our stuff gathered around us, but how much comfort and happiness and stability we truly have is just based on our emotional resolve and those things that are, just below the surface that can be taken away at any time. Those imagined fears and stresses are also great opportunities for change and transformation. Scorpio is not just change and transformation. This is a kind of misnomer about Scorpio. Every time someone mentions Scorpio, it's a big Western astrology thing, is change and transformation, death, change, transformation. Change and transformation happen naturally all the time. Scorpio is the change and transformation we resist because of our emotional fears. It's why it's opposite Taurus, which is what we have, which is stable and solid. Scorpio is that realization that everything that structure that's built on the fixed earth is really can be taken away at any time. A serious death, serious health, serious problems, the unexpected, our imagined fears are there because we know that life is fragile and things can get taken away at any moment. That's what Scorpio is, those imagined fears, and that the painful transformations, those things that we resist. Transformation happens naturally it's actually 1/4 of life. We naturally change and transform around Gemini energy, Virgo energy, Sagittarius energy, and Pisces energy. Those are the dual signs where we naturally and comfortably change. When people have a lot of planets in those signs, for instance, their life is always changing and they might not be so solid. But that's where we naturally change and grow in life, with those mutable signs. Scorpio is the painful transformations that we resist, the transformations we're afraid of, those things we're afraid to become committed to because we know how much emotional investment is there and how vulnerable we are once we become emotionally invested. These are the issues with Scorpio, and with the full moon there, especially joined Rahu, it's a great time to test how much stability, structure, and solid ground is really beneath all of our comforts and all the things we have, which is the Taurus lesson. So again, the full moon is not the beginning of a lesson, or it's not the beginning of a cycle, it's the balancing point of the solar cycle. So we're in the Taurus cycle. The full moon is the reflection of that. We only have as much value, comfort, stability, Taurus, as we're able to withstand, embrace, and face the painful transformations in life, which is Scorpio. So we're going to really feel that next weekend. And if you want to know how this is going to affect your sign, you can become a member, only 1 penny for 2 weeks, and you can see how this affects your sign. I'm going to do the forecast for my gold members now, where I talk about how this lunar eclipse will affect all 12 signs. And again, you can hear that now yourself for just 1 penny. You also get a 2-week trial to my member site, which includes several free classes and also 4 forecasts per week on career, relationships, spirituality, and of course that also includes a more comprehensive full moon and new moon forecast. So go ahead for just 1 penny and hear how this full moon will affect you and your sign as well.